Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the fifth and final community outreach meeting for short-term rentals. My name is Brandon Rabidoux. I'm assistant planner with the city of Temecula. So a little bit of an agenda for this evening. First, we're going to do an introduction, talk a little bit about what short-term rentals are, what the city's process are, how the city's dealing with it. And then at the end of this process, we'll be doing a survey. And it's really important that we get that survey from you. Another important component of this meeting is going to be your feedback to the city to tell us what you think about short-term rentals, good, bad, and anywhere in between. Why are we here? We're here to gather community input on short-term rentals. We have a two-phase process in order to do this. So first, we're going to be collecting data and feedback from the community in terms of these meetings, the polling that's occurring at these meetings, and then probably some additional community feedback as well. The second part of that is we develop policies and take community feedback while we're making those policies as well. Just a little bit of an estimated timeline. Again, this is subject to change. We're doing these meetings over the summer, and summer is coming to a close quickly. We are doing subcommittee meetings. What that means is that we're going to be meeting with our planning commission and city council and a group of 2 of them, and we'll be kind of getting some initial guidance on what short-term rental regulations should look like. After that, we'll be taking our presentations and data to the Planning Commission as a whole and the City Council as a whole. And those all are going to be noticed public meetings that you can attend and provide feedback as well. Again, policy development from those meetings, we evaluate the different things that come out of these meetings and we say, what type of resources do we need to enforce whatever policy may occur? So if it's a ban, these are the resources we need to effectively enforce this policy. If we're going to allow it, these are the resources that we need with that. And then ultimately what the costs are associated with that. So if we were to permit something, what does it cost to provide a permit and then the enforcement with that? If we're going to ban something, what's it going to cost and how do we provide the appropriate resources to do that? So first of all, for people that haven't been to these meetings before, we like to do a little short-term rental 101 so everybody's on the same page about what we're talking about today. What are short-term rentals? Short-term rentals are essentially any form of rental that is less than 30 days for, it could be a home, a casita, or it could be a room. And the reason that 30-day mark is really important is after 30 days, a rental, you gain rental rights, or renter's rights, I should say, tenant's rights. So that's kind of the component that changes with rentals. We like to talk a little bit about platforms. Platforms are Airbnb, VRBO, and what they're doing is essentially creating a marketplace for these short-term rentals. So you have a nice, easy way to go on your phone through an application or on the internet, and you can acquire a short-term rental through that process. There's a lot of different short-term rental websites, and it's important to note this because this is one of the challenges the city faces today and will face no matter what regulations are developed. All these different companies, we have to be able to work with them and find out how do we regulate these things. So again, we have a lot of different companies that are dealing with. It's not just one company, Airbnb being the prominent one, but it's a lot of different ones. Behind me, you're going to see an example listing. This example listing shows this is how you find a short-term rental. You put in Temecula. You say you need a place for 3 people, and you want to check in and check out date, just like a hotel. So that is an example listing for you. That listing goes on to show a map, approximate areas within the city, where these short-term rental locations are, and they provide pictures of the locations and additional information for consumers that are making their decision. A little bit of market context. Well, short-term rentals have grown about 800% since 2011. But as we stated before, that market is fragmented between those different booking companies. They have really, all these different booking companies have turned short-term rentals into an unregulated underground economy that we have here in the city. So how many short-term rentals do we currently have? Our estimates are between 300 to 500 short-term rentals. This changes based upon the season, whether it's wedding season or whether it's summer season or whatever other things that we have going on in the area, Balloon and Wine Festival, that really impacts how many short-term rentals we have at any one time. We have a tourism economy, obviously, in the valley here. That includes weddings, wineries, Old Town Pechanga, and different tournaments for sports events. This is an example listing map, and this includes various short-term rentals and the different configurations that they have. So some of the short-term rentals are casitas, some of them are whole houses, and so that's what that map represents. This was taken in June 2017 when staff first started looking at what's kind of going on out there. What are we hearing about short-term rentals? Well, the first part, we're hearing some negative consequences about short-term rentals. The first is we're hearing a lot about noise, we're hearing a lot about trash, we're hearing about parking, and we're hearing about safety. Those are the kind of the same things that we've heard at all these different meetings. It's those main themes. What are some of the positive things we've been hearing? Well, we've got 1.2 million visitors coming to the Temecula Valley annually. We're hearing that there's tourism revenue for businesses, whether that short-term rental user goes to a small business, a medium business, or a large business, they are a user. And then we also have people that utilize short-term rentals as a form of supplemental income. So they want to make the rest of their mortgage payment, or maybe they want to stock away a little bit of money based on their short-term rental. How does the city currently regulate short-term rentals? They're prohibited. They are not allowed. So short-term rentals are not permitted in the city today. Unfortunately, with that statement, we have to put the caveat that currently the existing ordinance that the city has is not effective in enforcing short-term rentals. So we're having some issues with that. That's one of the reasons we're here to have these community meetings. So there is a little bit of a caveat to that statement. There is a limited circumstance if you have a 60,000 square foot lot or larger and you get a conditional use permit from the city of Temecula, you can have a bed and breakfast. And there's certain stipulations and regulations that go in place with that. But that's really the only way any type of short-term rental can operate in a residential property. How do we respond to complaints? We talked a little bit about how we're having a problem with enforcement, and we're going to talk a little bit about why we're having issues with it. First of all of our complaints are dealt with on a case-by-case basis. So you call code enforcement, you use the City of Temecula app, they respond. But unfortunately, our response time based on our current code enforcement system is they're coming the next day. The noise is already gone by the next day. The trash may be gone by the next day. So we're having definitely trouble dealing with the short-term rentals with our current setup. When we wrote our regulations, we did not anticipate the sharing economy or any type of peer-to-peer economy or anything sort of that nature. We didn't think about those things. 20 years ago, it wasn't on anybody's mind. Many beach cities have been dealing with this for years, but we have not. What about HOAs? We like to explain this because people ask us, well, I'm in an HOA, they shouldn't be able to do this, and various questions related to that. Well, first of all, HOAs can always do something that's a little more strict than the city, right? So, for instance, if an HOA wants to regulate the paint colors and say you can do red, blue, and yellow, they can do that. And the city can say you can have any color, right? So an HOA can be more strict than the city. But an HOA cannot violate what a city says. So for instance, if the city says short-term rentals are prohibited within the city limits, an HOA cannot come in and say short-term rentals are permitted. Okay, so that's kind of the different variations between short-term rentals. The city of Temecula does not enforce CC&Rs, so that's the HOA's responsibility. It's not our responsibility as a city. So that's kind of how we have the stratification of how the HOA in the city works. What about other cities? Well, what we found, and you can read in any online newspaper, is that there is no one-size-fits-all policy for these short-term rentals regulations. Some cities are banning it, some cities are permitting it, some cities are finding an area right in between. So there's a wide variation going up and down the state of California and throughout the nation. These different short-term rentals regulations they're tailored for beach communities, inland communities, communities that are looking for workforce housing, different things. So for Temecula, we need to be able to shape our regulations to match our needs as well. A little bit about what we're doing for outreach. Again, we've got our website. It's temeculaca.gov/Temecula Rentals. We have these 5 community meetings. This is the last of those community outreach meetings. We have our survey on the website, and that's going to stay up at least through the end of this month. And then we've also been doing social media outreach. Again, I want to remind you before we get to our community feedback portion of the meeting that we do have a survey that it's very important that you take at the end of this meeting. So please don't leave until you've taken that survey. It's really crucial to us. So we're getting right up to the public feedback portion of the meeting. I want to give you a few ground rules for this portion of the meeting. First of all, I've got Lynn over here who will be happy to provide you a speaker slip. And if you could please fill that out so that we know who to call, we'd appreciate that. Second is we ask that you do be respectful to other people in the audience. Everybody comes from a different dinner table, and we ask that you please respect those different opinions. We're going to provide you 3 minutes this evening to provide your feedback to the city. At that 3-minute point, I'm going to go ahead and step in and say, okay, your time is up, and we ask you to conclude your statement. If for some reason you do not get to say everything that you want to say in that meeting, feel free to shoot us an email, put additional information on that survey. We want your feedback. That's key. We want your feedback, even if it's longer than 3 minutes, just you may have to write your feedback versus going over your time. And finally, one of the most important things, we're going to ask that you use a thumbs up or a thumbs down whether you're supporting or objecting to a statement or maybe a pro or a negative on the short-term rentals topic. It helps us with our audio and visual feedback so that we can actually look on the meeting in the future and say, hey, this is how many people are supportive, this is how many people are against, and ultimately it helps the audio recording. And with that, I'm going to ask Lynn to call the first public speaker.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brandon. Welcome, everyone, tonight. We're glad to see you here. We have a lot of familiar faces, so thank you for coming again. And we know we have a lot of passionate people about this subject. I know not everyone is comfortable speaking in front of the group, so if you want to provide feedback, just to reiterate what Brandon said, this is not the only forum to do so. So if you're uncomfortable speaking tonight, please go ahead and fill out the survey or talk to one of the staff members. There's Brandon and I up front and Luke and Dale in the back, or feel free to email us as well. With that, I only have a few speaker slips. I know some of you were considering, so please fill out a speaker slip if you're interested in speaking. And with that, our first speaker is Dustin Sterling.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin. I just want to say thank you to the Temecula City Council for recognizing this issue and for holding these meetings. It's too bad I don't have a lectern because I'd like to be able to pound on it to, to express myself a little bit more clearly. But I'd like to start by saying $300. We'll get back to that. The issue that's most important about short-term letting here in Temecula isn't so much the issue of whether it's okay for people to make money using their house as investment and so forth. It's the effect that certain choices and human nature have on the people around them. We're a community, not just a group of individuals that happen to live next door to one another. And our community is what's important. The community has a certain set of standards and behavior that they like to live by. When you sit outside in your backyard at night and you want to look out under the stars, you don't want to hear a bunch of people carrying on next door. Now, sometimes other people are going to be having a party, and that's okay because we all live together and everyone wants to have fun. But when it happens every living night and goes on until 2 or 3 in the morning, or sometimes when it begins at 2 or 3 in the morning, that is not okay. And there needs to have something done in order to correct those issues. Now, one of the biggest problems with short-term letting is the fact that you can make money on an investment property without even being there. The VRBO and Airbnb had made comments to the LA City Council regarding the banning of those situations up there, and they said, it's for old ladies and retirees who want to rent a room so that they can have a little spending money. Well, that's not what happens. What happens is people are sucking up the available properties in our community and they're turning them into cash machines, and you are all the lesser for it. Because every time one of these things comes up, it removes the peace in the community at large. It makes it more loud. You've got more mystery cars, more people showing up early in the morning, 2 and 3 in the morning, still dark. You don't know where they come from. Even if VRBO or Airbnb says that they vet the people who make the purchase, that doesn't mean that they're vetting all of the people who might show up. And I contacted Airbnb and VRBO myself because I've got a home that's right next to one of these suckers. And it took until 3 months.
I'm going to ask you to wrap up your comments,
Thank you.
please.
3 months for them to get back to me. They said, we talked with them about it. What happened the day after that? The most raucous and ungodly situation in the world. Music like you can't believe. In the street, the center of the street on the other side, you could still hear it. Now, $300 coming back to that. $300 is what it would cost me to pay to the person who owns the property behind me so that I can have peace and quiet at night. Every time I want to have family
I'm
over...
going to ask you to wrap up your comments, please.
I'm sorry, thank you, I appreciate it. Every time I want to have family over, $300. Every time I want to have a quiet sleep at night, $300. Every time I want to have mystery drivers not being up and down my street, $300. That is what it costs. That's the real cost to the city of Temecula. And what I would say is that the city council needs to provide to homeowners the power to stop this from happening so that we can have peace and safety in our community again. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Janice Knapp.
I'm just going to follow up with that because I've been thinking about it. It was a year ago today that we were affected, and I reached out to the city. And because I went over to meet the neighbors, and hey, nice to meet you. You're the owners? Oh, no, we're with Airbnb. And I go, Airbnb? What is Airbnb? I have no idea. So I went online, looked it up, and found it. And floored to my thing that, wow, it was. I mean, literally, the house, for all the people that say that they bought a depressed home to made it nicer, this home was bought and started the next week as an Airbnb. There was no fixing it up. There was no nothing. It just started. But what shocked me the most, and I had saved this, I'm going to kind of come back to it, is his comment is they rent 20 people, so on the average, there was 10 to 15 people a night. It's $30, $40 an extra guest. So literally, he was probably making $750 a night on the weekend, which is roughly $1,500, maybe $2,000. You times that times 52 weekends, and you're getting close to $100,000. Making $100,000. This is not about having supplemental income and raising, trying to make your month to month. This is actually a business. So with that being said, I'm going to read something because this is what shocked the most out of me, and I want it to be public, is that when I read the listing, Rule 5, we allow events such as rehearsal dinners, family reunions, bridal showers, etc. If the number of guests does not exceed 40, for events over 20, we will charge $500 event fee, which is to be paid separately from the overnight booking fees. The rate is significantly less when you find the event anywhere else, he goes on to say. But they will have additional tables and everything else. You tell me that's to make supplemental income, or is that a business? I don't know what to say, but it was a year ago, me and my husband went to the city council meeting and said, what's up with this? We had no idea. With that being said, it really made me mad, but I mean, for the people that, like I said, they bought a home, fix it up. This house was immaculate. Go on Google Maps, do your walk down the street, nicest house on it. They might be hiring people. I don't know, but at the same time, it is a business. It is to make money. It's not to make supplemental money. And now the person owns 5 of them. This person's making $500,000 a year on people like him and us, Yoko, and all these other people, and I don't think that's fair, and that's all I have to say.
I know there were some others who were thinking about speaking, so now is your time to provide me your slip, please. The next and the only slip I have left right now is Louis Lampius. I'll come this way. There you go.
Well, good evening to everyone. Let me tell you that I moved from Los Angeles to Temecula in 2002. After retiring from UCLA, I live here. And I've been this is my 3rd time that I attend these meetings. What I see is a need for the city to regulate this activity, enforce the ordinance, and provide the safety and they control the noise and the trash and the parking and everything is annoying to the citizens. I don't see, why don't they do that? If I was going to complain, I'm not going to complain to those who are opening these B&Bs, and I don't agree buying properties and walking away. But the city is, why if I call because my neighbor makes noise, the police doesn't show up? I mean, I come from Los Angeles, of course, there is other activities there, but there are ordinances and there are regulations, and the city enforces through the police the law of the land. So I don't see why here is different, that the owners or the homeowners need to come and sort of say, this is a bad guy and I should get rid of him, instead of having the city, help with maintaining the order that we all need, safety and noise and health and so on. So that's my 5 cents, okay? I think to me, I look at the city. And if it's a business, regulate it. Provide, tax it, provide revenue, and pay for what it takes to see that they comply with the ordinance. That sounds simple. Because, yes, I don't want anybody living next to me making noise, and I would probably end up hating them, okay? But that's why we have the city, and we have the HOAs, if they can find that I have some grass growing in the cracks of the driveway, and they send me a letter, why don't they go and regulate this not short terms in the neighborhoods? I mean, if somebody can walk and look and see if there's some grass in your driveway, they should have some time to look after all these issues, which is a little bit more important. I give you the time back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, if anyone else has speaker slips, I will take them now. Our next speaker is Jessica Abrigo.
Hey guys, welcome again. So I'm Jessica. I have a couple of properties here in Temecula, and I just want to say for the final meeting, I really do appreciate the city putting this together and getting us together. It's really opened my eyes, and I thought I handled my properties very well, and I don't have many noise complaints, but hearing the complaints that you guys all have, I can assure you that I have made proactive means to make sure that the guests or my neighbors have no issues. As I explained before, and I want to reiterate, it is a business for me. I'm a single mom, and I was able to purchase a second home because of this. So there's a lot of good to it if you run it well. I live in town. I can go to the homes. I don't live an hour away. I live right here. If I have a complaint, I'm there. I also help single moms. They work for me. They clean. Like I read a message last week. She's going to school. She's becoming a drug and alcohol counselor now because of the funds that I've provided for her. I work with local businesses. I have local coffee in my house, local tea. I have local businesses that I tell people to go to. We are supporting the local community here in Temecula. I'm a Temecula resident. I love it here. I love sharing this community. I love telling people about awesome restaurants. I love telling people about really interesting places to visit. I thrive on that. And I love being able to experience that. I do hear your noise complaints. I do hear your parking and your trash. I can assure you that I am taking measures to make sure that my neighbors who don't have issues as of today will never have issues. And any future home that I have won't either. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is David Krause.
Thank you. I don't live here. I actually came in specifically for this meeting from Dallas, Texas. And the reason I'm here is because what I wanted to chat about is actually a compromise concept. And in the world of two sides of the fence with short-term rentals, I do believe short-term rentals can coexist in a community and add to a community for a lot of the reasons that are stated. I do think that a lot of the complaints and the issues that Dustin and co have brought up are very, very valid. So I want to say that first. I'm from a company called NoiseAware, and a couple of years back, I had a renter at my Airbnb who threw a big party and told me they were going to have a quiet weekend. After that, a friend of mine and I went about creating a technology that would be a noise monitoring and nuisance control service for short-term vacation rentals. So I just wanted to let a little bit of education information out there about how that works, and also let you guys know that there is an adoption, a movement to be better neighbors. My company started something called Rent Responsibly, which is a kind of an advocacy and best practice organization. Fact of the matter is, this is a technology-based industry that has moved very, very quickly, and the city of Temecula, as Brandon said, is catching up a bit on their ordinance. But I did start off by mentioning compromise. So the idea that a noise monitoring system installed appropriately and monitored correctly could eliminate noise nuisance issues, which effectively is the front line of defense against impinging on neighbors' right for quiet enjoyment of their property. I truly believe, having had this issue happen to me, it's a critical issue to getting things right. And I also know that the responsible folks out there are looking into solutions, are adopting solutions. So I know it may not be the perfect solution for one side or the other, but the idea of a compromise is probably where I hope this city ends up, so all parties that have a stake in the community can partake and enjoy their community and their quality of life. So I appreciate your time, and be happy to continue to help the city if there's any other information I can provide.
Next, we have Tammy Alvarado.
The city says this is going to be a slow process to establish rules for the STRs. As a resident and a voter, I'm asking the city council to vote and pass a moratorium on non-hosted STRs at the city's next council meeting. Setting temporary parameters and rules that will give residents, code, and law enforcement tools they need now. I fear our city's reputation is at risk. If our representatives don't act in a timely manner, we will no longer be able to pride ourselves on the best and safest places to live. Routines are what makes my neighborhood safe, a place of comfort and solace. I'm furious that STR owners are pushing the unsolicited responsibility of their illegal business on us. They have changed the character of our neighborhood, transforming our quality of life, robbing us of our sanctuary. They are here for their personal agenda. Our neighborhoods are not a tourist destination, event spaces, or hotels. They were never meant for such an influx of travelers. STRs say that they're a good group. They're a self-governing community that follows rules and regulations. I believe that's false. They're illegal here, and their own platforms generally state, please review your local laws before listing your space. STR owners are doing this for the profits and for the way to ensure enforcement is by harsh, escalating financial penalties. In 3 months, the STR on my street will make over $60,000. A fine of $250, as someone suggested at the last meeting, will not deter their illegal behavior. That said, here are some possible solutions if the city does permit them in residential neighborhoods. The city provide a website with the owner's name and contact information so that we can report nuisances to them first before going to the police. Sleeping areas confined to bedrooms with 2 people in 1 car per bedroom. No businesses or venues allowed. A 60-day cap per rental year. An anti-clustering provision. I have 3 within 5 doors of my home. One just last month had 29 people staying there based off a review. 1 permit per person on site, a property owner with no transfers. Mandatory noise sensors, thank you. I think that should be mandatory. And maybe the city could bring in developers and find an area where you can build a STR neighborhood so they're not in our neighborhoods. Thank you.
I can feel the air conditioning kick in, so it's slightly cooler over here, so I apologize for the temperature. Thank you for your patience. Our next speaker is Erica Garibay.
Thank you. I'm not as organized as Tammy, but I definitely agree with everything that she has said. I spoke at maybe the second or third meeting, and I think I was outraged by the comments being made by the property owners. I really think that this time around I'm hoping to give a little bit more solutions. I know there's some property owners that are accountable for their properties, but that's not the majority, and I really believe that we still all need to make sure that the property owners are held accountable. I personally don't think that the STRs should be allowed in our single home neighborhoods. That's for sure. I'm very adamant about that. However, I also agree with Tammy in regards to if they are, then why not place them elsewhere? When the owner describes the home, this is something else that I find going through. It's not accurate. Square footage is not accurate. How many guests currently on the next door to where I live, it's 16 plus guests, and it indicates, I think, 10 beds available. So you can just imagine 10 beds at $150 a night. That's not going to attract your lawyers and your doctors. So, you know, what type of element are we bringing into our neighborhoods? So the other thing is, again, the zoning. It should be considered outside of our single home communities. After a permit with the city, I also believe that there should be some type of neighbor approval. We should be involved in that approval. The limitation on the clusters, I know Tammy is dealing with 3 on her street. I'm dealing with 2 on my cul-de-sac, and then around the corner, 1 just popped up. So I just don't think that it's fair to us. I also think that a limit on the number of days should be also considered, and also owner occupied, or at least them living within the city limits. You know, Jessica was talking about she lives in Temecula. She has a vested interest in the community, where these investors that are coming in and just purchasing lots of homes don't. They live elsewhere, and so it's a business to them. And so we're not talking about supplemental income at that point. So, you know, thank you for your time. And again, I think we are very passionate about this, and we will continue to fight this battle.
I have one more speaker slip, so if anyone else would like to speak, please fill out a speaker slip. Our last speaker is Lisa Bhatia.
Thank you very much. I just want to make 3 points. We have a short-term rental. We're living on cul-de-sac. We have probably 15 little kids under the age of 10 that run the neighborhood like crazy, like kids should do. The people that come in don't understand that there are that many kids. They don't know who to look for. They don't know where the kids are coming out of. And I think it's a really dangerous situation. The second point is we have we have a cul-de-sac, and there are so many cars parked on our street that the residents can't park on the street. They have the huge stretch limos coming up and down the street, and I don't even know how they turn around. It's a little crazy. And then my last point is, if I wanted to live in a hotel, I would, and I don't, and this is my community, and I live in Temecula because we all know each other, and because we know who's supposed to be in our neighborhood and who's not supposed to be in our neighborhood. And I am tired of these people. I mean, we have no idea. It's like, oh, who's that coming down the street? You know, it's a dangerous situation, and it's not acceptable.
Do I have anyone else that would like to speak tonight? Going once, going twice, okay. Again, thank you for your input. Before I turn it back over to Brandon, I just want to remind you that this is not the only option, the only forum for input. There is the survey. We are available by email, phone call. You could talk to us afterwards. But we do really appreciate your feedback, and it will go into the next steps in this process. And with that, I give it back to Brandon.
Thanks, Lynn. So again, we're going to be taking the survey right after I go over the next steps real quick, so please do stay for that proportion. Beyond this, we'll be taking additional feedback. So if you want to shoot us an email, you have some additional thoughts that you want to make after this meeting, please provide that to us. Again, that survey is going to be open at least through the end of the month. Go ahead, take that survey, make your comments. It's important for us. We want that feedback. We hear different ideas, we hear different solutions, we hear different issues. And so in order for us to address all those things, we need to hear it from you. We are going to be holding additional public meetings. Again, that Planning Commission meeting will be a publicly noticed meeting. The City Council meeting will be a publicly noticed meeting. And if it's decided that we need additional meetings, we will post all that information on temeculaca.gov/Temecula Rentals. So stay tuned, check that website. We'll have additional information on there. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Casey as our consultant, and she's going to conduct the survey. And again, our staff is available after the meeting if you have additional comments or questions.
So we appreciate the comments you've all made so far at the 5 previous meetings, so thank you so much for doing that. The point of the survey is to gather your feedback in a more systematic process. We want to know specific answers to specific questions, so now's the time to take the survey. If you have a phone or a tablet, anything connected to the internet, you can use that to take the survey, and if you don't, we have paper forms right over there that you can use. So let me guide you through how to take the survey online if you haven't done so already. Let me reiterate that if you've already taken the survey, you don't need to take it again. To participate in the survey, all you need to do is go to slido.com. And then from there, you'll type in the event code TEM1. Should be very easy to just slide right into that survey. You'll complete all the questions and then hit save at the end, and it'll submit all your answers. I also want to reiterate that the survey is completely anonymous. It never asks for your name. I can't track who submitted what answers, so feel comfortable sharing your thoughts and opinions as much as you'd like. One of the very first questions asks what district you live in, and so there's a map right there that shows the 5 different districts. You can also ask us if you need any help. And I will be coming around to answer any questions you have about how to take the survey. Again, thank you all for coming. There's snacks, take some as you leave, and we really appreciate you being here today.